And hello, welcome to the League of... God damn it. Christy's laughing and I can't do anything. Hello, welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. And we take our show very, very seriously.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. This is my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago. Say hi, Christy Santiago.
Hi, Christy Santiago.
And happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Yeah, it is Valentine's Day. Saint Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, Christy.
Speaking of Valentine's Day, I have a Valentine for you. It says Mac right there.
For me?
It does. It says that you're a double chocolate donut.
Oh.
And together we're twice the fun. We always have a great time when we're together. Some might say that we're double the trouble, but I like to think we're twice the fun.
I love that. You saved that for me, and next time I come down, I want it.
Lindsay.
Aww.
Thanks for not sugarcoating things, Lindsay. She's a powdered donut. It says, you believe in leaving your mark on the world. You don't take life too seriously, and you're not afraid to make a mess. And I was like, yeah, that's Lindsay. And then Nacha. Our Lord and Savior, yes, says, thanks for helping us out of a jam. You're a jelly donut. Jelly. You aren't afraid to wear your heart on your sleeve. You're generous and always down to help out friends in a jam.
Those are wonderful.
Oh, and then for Stacy, you remember these that have the two holes in them to put a lollipop through?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I rolled her one and stuck that on the coffee pot for when she woke up this morning.
I love it.
Happy Valentine's Day. And I have more, and that if people are lucky, I will read them to them. Maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Oh.
It depends.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm curious. To know.
Dun, dun, dun.
Da, da, da. All right. So we have so much to cover this week. So in not normal fashion, we are going to cover basically none of it. So we're just going to talk about how we feel this week because there's so much going on, right? And we say that every week. Also, I would like to start saying a new thing. Every week, we have a great show for you this week. Because everyone says that, and we always do. So we might as well start saying it too. We have a great show for you this week.
We do.
And I hope that you guys are here to enjoy it. Yeah, there's a lot going on. And we're just kind of going to take a step back and look at it at like a bird's eye view, like the everything, and kind of give a few world building solutions and talk about how we feel about things and stuff. We're going to have like a little fireside chat. So these are some fireside reflections we have for you tonight. So what's the first thing that we kind of want to touch on and kind of bounce back on?
I would like to say, for me, one of the just most absurd things I've seen in the news in the last 2 days was talking heads on MSNBC saying that Bernie is not even a Democrat. You know, if he wants to lead the Democratic Party, then he should register as a Democrat. Same person. Fast forward, next day, says, Bloomberg is the person I'm endorsing. I'm like, wait, you just said I'm so like, do they forget that we can rewind? I mean, do they forget that we can type in name, date, and clip of anybody just about? I don't know. And then the Bloomberg, the audio that was leaked, that was just gross. I don't want him leading anything. I don't want anybody who feels the way he did on those audio tapes leading anybody in any country ever. Horrible. Mac. Uh-oh. Okay.
Hey, sorry, we were having a little high-pitched sound. Did you hear the high-pitch?
I did not hear anything.
You didn't? Do you still hear it? Because I heard it. Sorry, I wasn't listening except for the whistling in my ear.
You're like, get it off of me. Like a Twilight.
All right, I think it's gone. I hope it's gone. Anyways. Okay. I guess it's not gone. It's not me. My mic is now unplugged. So
I'm just using
might want to check you.
Camera setup right here.
Sorry everyone, we're having some technical issues.
Beep, beep, beep. My mic connection? Where would that be?
Let me check real quick. And welcome back to the League of Extraordinary Atheists. We already did this part. So,
Fast
to
forward.
recap, back where we were, Christy was talking to me. I wasn't really paying attention because Nacho was yelling at me about a squeak that he thought I was causing, but it turns out Christy probably was causing it. But
I wasn't paying attention, so.
So, anyways, what'd you say? What?
What?
Yeah.
Come again?
Where were we? Literally.
Bloomberg's audio that was leaked this week.
Oh.
And that I don't want anybody leading ever, anywhere in this country, local, federal, or any other democracy who thinks the way that person does on the audio.
Yeah, I don't remember what I said. I did listen to it.
Well, he said that the best thing to do, the best thing to do is to throw young Black and Latino boys up against the wall and frisk them. That's the best thing to do. And pretty much if they're adolescent or in their 20s and they're Black or Latino, then that's where all the crime is coming from. But I'm saying it nicely because he didn't say it nicely. It was disturbing to say at least, and to say the least. And this man, this wasn't like something he said 40 years ago. This was in 2012. Gotcha.
And he also blamed the 2008 crash on poor people.
Yes.
He said the banks were forced to give the people these loans, and then they couldn't pay them back. And then
nobody was forced. Nobody was forced.
No,
those protections on the law that made it illegal to do things like that were ripped out of our laws. And so the bad actors took it upon themselves to gamble with everyone's money. Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, that's been
bunch of lying liars that lie.
Ooh, wait, what? Dog face pony show liar, something like that.
Pony soldier.
Pony soldier.
It's so bad.
Lion, dog face pony soldier.
It's so bad. And then on top of that being bad, the research shows that was never said in that movie. That he said it's from. Right.
Well, I mean, he tried. He tried to quote.
In case anybody's wondering, it was Biden said this dumb, lying, dog-faced pony soldier. He called a candidate.
2 people that.
Yeah, people to their faces this. And then was asked where he got it from. He said an old Western, named the Western it was. And then people went to go see, and it's not from, it's not. Maybe it is from a Western, and he mixed up which one it was.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not.
Yeah. It is Biden, so, like, you gotta take everything he says with a...
He's a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's some stuff. So, the media is working overtime right now, especially MSNBC. Like, they're getting... Like, if it's anything like a left proposal or a real left candidate, then they act like they're Fox News. It is just straight up propaganda. It is all narrative run. It's not news. It isn't news. It's just propaganda. It's just like, here's this thing, this and this is how you should feel about it, because it's dangerous.
That's just like when they said the biggest news of the night on the New Hampshire primary results was that Klobuchar came in third. That's the biggest news of the night. Not that Bernie won. Not number one, but had it been her in number one or Buttigieg in number one, it would have been the biggest news of the night is look who won, and it would be this big thing. It's very disturbing. The more I look into Pete Buttigieg, the more of a creepy crawler he's turning out to be. He was in college with Mark Zuckerberg. He was one of the first 300 people in the Facebook app when it was just starting. And Mark has too much power. He's in trouble for fucking up or helping to be the demise of democracy. Like you have too much influence and too much power to not hold that responsibility that, you know, the whole country uses it, the whole world uses it, but you're an American, so you need to be worried about your democracy here, and he's not. And that's who's in his pocket. That's disturbing. And it's more than that, you know, his campaign people or the people that made that out. It's just, there's just so much with Buttigieg. I don't trust him. I don't think anybody that reads facts about him, it's not whether they're tilted anyway, just what we know of him, without any bias in it, would be able to trust him, unless they're uber wealthy and are funding his campaign.
Yeah, and look, not just Buttigieg, but back to like how the news is spinning this, like moderates versus progressives in general.
Yep.
If you look at this little graphic I brought to the table.
Oh, I know. I love that. It's so good.
MSNBC. Speaking of MSNBC.
Yep.
It's, guess who won, guys? Well, it's not Bernie with 26%. It's the other three combined, because that's how contests work now.
Right.
Like, how insane.
Have you seen the news? I think it's that same segment. They were saying that Bernie, I don't see how he can win. This is our supposed to be left or center left news network, saying they don't understand why people think Bernie would win, because during the last primaries, when it was him and Hillary, he had like 60% in New Hampshire. But this time he only has like 30%. Don't people see that went down? And I'm just thinking, that's not how you math. There's like a 70,000 candidates this time. There's a lot, you know, and then that number gets broken up between all of them. But they, I think, are just betting that people will just be a sponge and let what they say become their own thoughts. And I'm hoping that people aren't doing that. The news is crazy. You're right. It's a spin. It's fake news. Thanks, Trump. God damn it.
Well, I mean, you really shouldn't say that, because you know he created the term.
Oh yeah, I know.
He'd probably sue you for it.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So it's frustrating.
Very.
My point is, stuff in the election right now is really frustrating, but it's also really awesome, because Bernie Sanders really is leading in the polls. I heard today that he just topped the charts in charts with his new record. Right now he's in first place in Texas.
Yeah.
That's,
think about that,
amazing. And in North Carolina,
wrap around that for a minute. You know, like, it's great. No, sit in it for a minute. It's fucking awesome.
It's really amazing.
Yes.
And what we need to do right now is we need to focus on, I think, tearing down Buttigieg, because he's doing some shady shit. And I was not going to make a pun with that, but with shadow. Because his campaign contributed over $40,000 to the Shadow app, which fucked up the Iowa caucus. That looks shady. And he's Shady Pete. And like, what else are they calling him? Rat face Pete.
Yeah, I know. Oh right? Gosh,
it's kind of funny, but at the same time,
they talked about that too, about how Bernie's it's the same. He's the same as Trump because of his supporters. They're bullies. You know, look what they did to poor Pete. All these rats. They think this is fun. This is childish. And these are, you know, adults that are supposed to be voting. And they choose Bernie. It makes, you know, it just, I found the overwhelming bombardment of rats on his page hilarious. Nobody's getting hurt. It's not threatening. You can't be a public figure and say, if I don't like what you're going to say about me, you're not allowed to say it. That's not how it works. You're running. It's a competition. If people don't like you, don't you want to know? They're not going to vote for you. I don't know. So
it's all good. I was watching the chat, and I finished it for Reese real quick.
That's awesome.
It was bothering me. So, anyways, so on the flip side of that, talking about people who are outraged about Rat-Face Pete. On the flip side, Chris Matthews can say, "Can we even trust Bernie? Like, we've seen socialism before. I'll tell you my thoughts on it later on after the show." But they go back to the 1950s, and he brings up Chavez, and he's like, "Look, if that would happen here, they would have taken me like out in Central Park."
I watched that.
And like shit like that. Like, so he's basically just saying, or his worry is that if we have Bernie's brand of socialism, people are going to be drug out to Central Park and executed. And that is literally insane. It's just insane.
This is a left, according to this person and this channel. This is the left or center left saying that. That should freak anyone out. Everyone. I was pissed and mad and sad. And yeah, I didn't even know, how do you fix that? Here's somebody with a huge platform making over $40,000 an episode.
Yeah, you just have to counter narrative with the truth, honestly. It's what you have to do.
Happen. It did. I mean, it
yeah,
happened,
I mean, they kind of defended him, but at the same time, this is the same network saying, "How dare you defend or offend Rat-Face Pete? Yeah. Also, Bernie's gonna take us all outside and shoot us." Like, you can't do that. Yeah. And then scream "Party Unity." It's just so counterintuitive.
You saw that, and did you see the woman, an older woman? It was the same day. I think that was Sunday shows. The same day, they asked a woman in New Hampshire who she was gonna vote for, and she says Bernie. And the reason why is because she loves MSNBC. She watches it all the time, and she couldn't believe how much they dissed him. So she said, "Well, then that's who I'm voting for." And they don't realize that
because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It was so frustrating.
It's so frustrating. People really do like the underdog. Doesn't matter what ideology you have. Most people like the underdog, unless there's something wrong with you and you don't feel empathy. Yeah, that happens too.
It does, and it's really a shame. It's really a shame how they're treating Bernie, but it's also wonderful to see Bernie soaring. Regardless, he really is leading in the polls in multiple states. We could really win this. We could really have a democratic socialist in the president's office.
You guys can't see me, but I was doing this.
She's dancing.
Just the thought of that makes me like, oh, yes. Yeah.
So
elated.
I was wondering if we get to this point earlier today, and I forgot about it till now. So to make this more of a little fireside chat and reflect on it, let's reflect on this idea. What if we get Bernie in office? I think if we get Bernie in office, we need to keep fighting. We need to keep fighting for those policy proposals that he's putting forward. Because without us and without a progressive Congress, we're not going to get him. Bernie's not going to be able to get anything done for us if we don't continue fighting. And even if we get Medicare for all and free college, and what's the third big thing? Oh, just like money out of politics. If we get those three things, is that enough? Is that enough to fix the system that we have in America currently? So Christy's shaking her head no, and I don't think so either. I think that's worth something. I think if we get those three things, we are going to see some major changes.
Right.
But I don't think in the system that we have that is sustainable to have free college for all, Medicare for all. We need to change a few other things too.
Prison shouldn't be for profit.
Prison.
Immigration. There's so many things.
There is
a living wage, an actual living wage that is tied to inflation by law. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
So
there's a lot.
Yeah, there is. But what's an underlying issue for you? Like
money.
In our entire system. Okay, money. I agree.
In politics.
Is it just in politics, or is it?
Well, with the system, that's all we could really talk about. But I think just getting money out of our politics would change so much. Having publicly funded elections and campaigns, every candidate gets the same amount of money, and they have to show receipts for all of it. It's publicly funded. We pay for it. I like Yang's democracy dollars. I love that. I think that's brilliant. Putting the power, there's 330 million people in this country that have the potential to be voters. And if they all had $200 or $300 each to throw into whose ever campaign they feel, breaking it up, doing 20 here, 10 there, I think that would make a huge difference. And not allowing corporations to put their free speech in. Yeah. I don't think that, the people in that corporation individually would have their own democracy dollars and individually can fund whoever they want publicly, but they can't as a corporation. And I think that would change a lot of things, because we would get a lot more grassroots and progressives, because the playing field would be leveled. It would be immediately leveled. There couldn't be a Bloomberg, because he would never get the public funding. It just wouldn't happen. Nobody is going to be doing that except for corporations, and corporations wouldn't have a say. So I think that would be my main one, not by all where I would stop, but my main one. And then healthcare for everyone. I think it's a right.
Yeah.
A human right, and it's huge.
Healthcare is not a privilege. It's a human
right.
Okay, I can't do it right now. I'll pull it out later.
He's so cute. He's so adorable.
Yes.
I know.
So, yeah, I think getting money out of politics is a huge one. We need to get that we need to get that passed before Medicare for all, because people already want Medicare for all. So even if Bernie can't get that through in his first 4 years and he just gets money out of politics, we have a much higher chance of getting Medicare for all.
Of gaining our democracy back too.
Yes. I think we need to get rid of the electoral college. I think it needs
delegates.
Yes, delegates. We need ranked choice voting, and we need money out of politics. We need those vouchers for funding people's campaigns, like Christy was talking about. I mean, whether it's democracy dollars, I love it. I think it really would help our democracy. We have one of the lamest, less democratic democracies in the world.
Yeah, we do.
And it's really sad to see that we rank so low, and in the category for democratic elections, yet we claim we are the best and that we are spreading democracy around the world with our regime change war policies.
Democracy bombs and freedom missiles, okay?
Yeah. And I think we could go for more of a parliamentary kind of system, at least for Congress. I think that it would. And I've touched on this before just a little bit. I think we need to have representation of all the parties somewhere in Congress. Like there can't be zero representation of the Green Party.
Right.
Or even of the whatever fascist right-wing party that we have. We need to have some racists to represent the racists in our union. We just have to. I think.
Yeah, because then it would be more like that's who that party is. Instead of, I don't think that all Republicans are racist at all. That's the dumbest thing to say ever. It's just dumb. And I don't think that all conservatives are either. So it just sucks that that's the party where you can say not all conservatives are blank, but all blank are conservative. So that sucks. And I think that we have talked about this many times. It's so true. I think that if we could have, like all other democracies, a socialist party, a communist party, a Christian party, whatever, a Green Party, and then if you have them all having the same funding, that means they get the same amount of platform time, if you will. Democracy dollars would show those parties who is the favorite, because they would get the most democracy dollars. The most candidates, their candidates would get the most democracy dollars. And then I think, and I do feel that the idea would win at that point, because there would be it's unfair. The Green Party, as of right now, can't even dream about having the funding the DCCC has. And the DCCC can't even dream about having the funding the RNC has. Like, that's, and if you break down the funding isn't coming from just its Democratic members in this union at all. They're coming from many PACs and many bundlers, and it's a money game. That's why if we eliminate that, it almost knocks all of the people that are way ahead of the game just by the unfair fact that they have tons of money. That goes away, because you might have tons of money, but you're not allowed to use it anymore. We have publicly funded campaigns. So that's great that you're wealthy, Tom Steyer or whoever. This is how much you have to campaign, whatever it might be. Let's say 60,000 is what you get. And I like that UK does, 6 months before the date of the election is when they start campaigning there. So you get 6 months of campaigning and then you vote. Not like here, we have literally 24 months of, of bullshit, and then 18 months of more bullshit. And then the last 6 months are insane.
Yeah. So I'm getting some pushback in the live chat, and I don't want to just keyboard you back too much. So I want to just go ahead and try to suss out the idea here. I like more of a parliamentary system. I like more of however we get more representation for real people in our country. All right, and we have a very large, wide country, right? We have 50 states, and I think we should also bring in other U.S. controlled areas, right? Like the Virgin Islands, like Puerto Rico, and other places around the world that are U.S. territories and don't really have another president besides our president. Colonies. They should be allowed to vote. Colonies. Yeah. Colonies, yes.
Call them what they are.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting me. So, no, and I just said that, no, I think we should have representation for fascists, right? That doesn't mean I like fascists. No.
But if you don't, will fall apart if we had actual representation.
Right. And if it was, no one needs quite equal time, but they need like equal opportunity to make their case, right? Like let me put it to you like this. If we had a news network which was fair, we would just have them present the news, just present the news and then have people from different walks of life say how they feel about it, right? They would have on different people from different backgrounds to discuss, not just, well, this is what it means, bam, there you go. Thank you for watching Fox News or MSNBC, right? No, you need to have ideas shared, but have them shared as ideas, not objective facts from just one side. That's the issue with our media right now. This is also our issue with Congress. We have two parties, excuse me, and anything left of those two parties is just off the table. Anything right of those two parties is currently off the table. We have a very narrow Overton window. And the only way that we can widen that window and get more ideas is to widen who we let talk in that window in Congress, right? And the reason for even letting the extremists that aren't calling for violence, per se, at least have a say in the halls of Congress or in mainstream media is, if they don't, they find somewhere else to go and they swell there. And eventually the Overton window shifts both ways, right? So when your opinion is knocked out of there, it's really easy to suppress your voice, right? And your vote, even. If you don't get a say in public opinion and society. So you need to make sure that there's protections for when other people, their opinions are suppressed, and when yours are suppressed. So you need to allow free speech.
Agree.
Through and through. I don't mean to sound like Dave Rubin, or I'm sorry, Rave Dubin, or freaking anyone else on the right, because they really do press for free speech. But that's because free speech really is good, right? We need free speech to have honest, wide conversations. So I think it really is important to have representation from all walks of life. Otherwise, we get what we have now. We have Black people who are invisibilized with their issues and their support for certain presidential candidates, and we also have people who have been invisibilized over a course of I don't know how long, just fascists and nationalists in our country who have just gotten angry over the last 10, 20, 30 years and now are ready to just fucking let loose because they finally have a madman in the White House. But they have just gotten angry in a bubble where no one else is able to reach them. We've created safe spaces and echo chambers all throughout the U.S. And if we don't encourage people to get together and share ideas, then it's going to stay like this. Like we don't need Twitter to choose what's good and bad to talk about. We need to have public forums. We need to have more people actually talking to each other and sharing ideas, and let those ideas be debated and the weak ones be lost. Right. We can't defeat the weak ones if we don't give the weak ones a platform at all. Yeah. That's my thought on it. I'll stop ranting. What do you think, Christy?
When watching world news, whenever there's election, let's say in France or Estonia, it always has kind of made me be like, what the hell? Whenever I hear like the far right party gained 20 more seats, I'm like, why do they have that? But then they also have a communist party and a socialist party, and they picked up seats too. And so I just feel like there is more representation when it's not a zero-sum winner-takes-all situation. ranked choice voting. And I think that there's nothing like massive that I would change the way our government is set up, except for adding more democracy, adding more representation. And I think that it would be a good idea that the next generation of government, my children and your children's children, when they are being voted in and becoming senators and congress people, that they maybe have had a chance to take care of the country, and so there is a surplus again, and maybe they can start thinking about things, big things like, well, let's look at governments around the world. Let's use science and data. What is this government doing that is amazing? What are they doing? Even if it's just like, well, what's different, and what are they doing that seems to work better? It doesn't have to be changing it to a parliament. It can be just adding more parties and letting them, right now as an American, I know that voting for a Green Party or Libertarian Party is a wasted vote. It does show data that some people are moving that way, and it is a good thing over history to look back and see people started swinging this way. But I know that it's not going to help a monster not win, so unfortunately it's a zero sum. So adding, more democracy, I think, would be the best way, and traveling around the world and seeing what other governments are doing that is better, that is working better, and maybe implementing it into ours. I know that's not going to happen in my lifetime, so I am hopeful that is something that would happen to a government when they've had a chance to get ahead of a lot of the problems in their country. Like Finland would do something like this. They've traveled the world and what works best in education and implemented it at home, but they're able to do that because they are ahead of the game when it comes to a lot of like social issues in their country, as far as, homelessness, and they really don't have very, very deadly poverty or uber wealthy. They just don't have those two extremes in their country, because they've done a lot to make sure that those two things don't happen. And I like that. That's what I would hope for ours. I know that's nothing that Bernie is talking about.
No.
So it would be, no, I don't think that just getting him in, I could stop watching the news and just be like, everything's good. No, that would be the beginning of trying to gain back the trust in the American people that our democracy is actual democracy, that 280 voters aren't going to be purged because this system says that they don't live there anymore. They actually live there. That those kind of problems have to stop happening. People don't trust it. I don't trust it. And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. No, it doesn't matter. It's not going to count. And it does matter. We have to start making it matter, making sure that we vote in people that are from our communities. It's going to take a long time and a lot of work.
Yeah. No, yeah, it will. It will. And I was gonna piggyback on something you said there. Now I can't remember. Oh, you said that some of these countries that you were talking about, they don't have super impoverished people and super wealthy people, right? They try to take care of that, and I think that's what we need to focus on. And the only way that you do that is you try to combat homelessness and poverty, right? That's a given. Most people want to help the poor, but then how do you balance that? Well, you try to stop super wealthy from happening. You try to make sure Jeff Bezos's don't happen, or Bloomberg's don't happen. Mm-hmm. How do you do that? I think it's a very simple way to not do that. You set a maximum wage.
Yeah, or like Scandinavian countries, they don't even have a maximum wage at all. What they have is, once you make this amount, the next dollar and everything above it, 90% of it is taxed, because you're never going to fill it. It's at the point where anything over this amount, you're never going to even know if you have it or don't have it. It's so much. And I mean, I'm okay with it not being 98%. I'm okay with it being 70% once you reach, 500 million in 1 year take home as a single person. It would be more for husband and wife or wife and wife or partners. It would be more if you had kids. It would be more if you had, there's obviously, you have so many businesses, and it would be more. I like a progressive scale that it slides. Individuals. Yes.
So one of my solutions while talking to a super capitalist, a super conservative, just a few weeks ago, I think I told you about this just a little bit. Hold on, I have to respond to.
Only citizens get a vote, Reese. Quit being an asshat. Seriously.
Yeah. Okay. So, what I brought it down to was speaking to a staunch capitalist, a real conservative, was my maximum wage idea. And basically, what it boiled down to is okay, let's say there's a cutoff, not just to the maximum wage, but to the maximum wealth that someone could have.
Right.
$50 million. And he's like, why? I'm just like, because you're never going to have to fucking work again. Let's say let's say Christy, you work your butt off through this meritocracy that we have, and you actually make $50 million.
Right.
Do you think you need to make any more money?
No, I don't.
Right.
Don't.
And I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but
I would be okay if I still continued to make more money, but I was taxed the equivalent that I stay where I am and keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think that there's nothing wrong with that. But I would even be okay with it being way more than that, actually.
Really?
Yes.
And see, I think that's a good stop. I don't see why anyone would need more than $50 million if we have a little more of a socialized system with the Medicare for all, with the free college, and a few other things. I don't need to go through everything right now. But at $50 million, you can take care of your family.
That money
for a lifetime.
Money. That money is just going to make money.
Right. Unless you stop it. Unless you have a cap on it, they can't make more than $50 million. At that point, you are just doing free labor.
No, but your money, $50 million would make money by itself.
Yeah, it would. So at this point, I said to the guy that I was talking to, is all right, so once you make that $50 million, you can continue to work if you want, but most people don't want to work and not make money, because at this point in this society that I'm trying to sell to you, you can't make more. You max out at the 50 million. So you can either give your your employees a bigger raise, so all of that extra money you would be making would go to your employees, or you could hand down the business to your son, because it's obviously making you enough money. You don't need to work anymore. Hand it down to your son.
Let him
make. When he makes the maximum wage.
Yeah, let him make it.
Yeah, then he can give it to his sister or his brother or his friend. He's like, I don't like that. I'm like, yeah, but what do you care? You're fine.
Right.
It's like, I mean, you got a point. I'm like, yeah, I got a fucking point, because you're fine. No one needs more than $50 million. Mm-hmm. And if your whole freaking family makes $50 million, right, that's a bit. And I don't even care at that point. That's fine. Keep passing it down. Share the wealth a little bit, and you are fine. You can take a few vacations a fucking month if you want to. Who needs more? Right. We're so consumed with just making more and winning all the time. But we never stop to think of, what can I do when I fucking won? Let's say you have won. You don't need to just keep winning. You can just enjoy your goddamn prize, right? And just pass it on. Let someone else win. And if we stop this humongo amount of wealth, this super wealth that we have in this country and a few others, then you help fix the issue with poverty. You just do, because there's only so much wealth to go around, right? And there's only so much work for people to do. That's why we pay people at MSNBC to just do propaganda. It's not our job to just do what you're fucking told, to work against the system and work against facts, right? We can find better ways to use our time, and we can find better ways to spend our money.
I agree.
That's my whole spiel on it. $50 million to me, just kind of picking a price, but like, I know no one can live off $1 million their whole life. I don't think that's possible if you live a moderately long life, and if you have a family. $50 million, you're going to be fine. You're probably going to be living pretty well for a while. So that's why I picked that.
Yeah. I'd probably say 500 million in America.
500 million.
Just because there are so many millionaires that have 300 million and 400 million, and they have the power. You know, you don't want a compromise is when both sides feel like they didn't win, but they didn't necessarily lose either. But they're not like, woo, that was awesome. They're like, ugh, I don't really them. I hate that person.
Right. And
so I think it should be, you know, I think that is gross. That is 500 million. Why? Yeah. But because I feel like that, when I think of that number, that would probably be a good number.
Yeah.
You know, because, and they would think, you know, I feel, you know, 50 million to someone who already has 380 million. You're being a dictator, and you're, they, you know. So I just think America's past that number, but everything else that you, I agree with all of it. And I don't think that making a cap would even be a good sell point in this country. I really think that you would have to sell it as the cutoff point of when we take 78% of your income would be blah, 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 you know, and then the cutoff point where we take 98%. So for every dollar you'll get 2 pennies would be 500 million in a year. After that, we'll take 98 cents of every dollar as tax. You know, I don't, of course that's absurd to me, but to people who have that much, it wouldn't be. And we have a lot of those here. And I'm not saying that because you have that money, you're a bad person. I'm just saying that you need to help out more, because you won't feel it gone. You're not going to. So that's like, I have a whole table full of food here, and it's Thanksgiving, and I'm by myself, and there's a hungry family next door. Well, it's not my fault that they're hungry. It really isn't in real life. That wouldn't be my fault. It's not my fault that I have food and they don't, because it really isn't. But how could you sit here and you can't eat all this? You can't even put it in the refrigerator and live off it for leftovers and still finish all of it for the whole week. There's too much. Yeah, you have to throw it away. You're okay with throwing it away to the garbage than helping someone? I can't wrap my mind around that.
Yeah. So let me say this real quick, because I think I did the math right here. You said you would put 98% tax.
Well, that's how a few other countries, and our highest was 97.
Right, but what on which part did
500 million and $1 and up.
And $1. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I calculated it from $1 billion, so just double that. All right. Okay. So then I guess you could cut this number in half. Taking 2 cents from every dollar leaves you with $20 million.
I know. Think about that. People. I love how when they say 1 million seconds is like 2 days or 3 days, something like that.
Yeah.
But a billion seconds is like 33 days.
Yeah. So here's the argument for the counter argument. Because the counter argument of this was like, well, then rich people aren't going to be able to survive. They won't be able to run their businesses or buy other businesses to create monopolies.
Right.
Nothing's gaga, right? $20 million you can still do a lot with.
Right.
And also, if you kneecap all of the rich people at that, they'll all just have that $20 million.
Right.
Right? It will be proportionate what they have.
Right.
Rich
And
people
think about, they wouldn't have
the
power.
same hierarchy.
They would still have all that money, but in our like new, they would have the same power as Mac and myself. They would get 300 democracy dollars, and that's what they would be allowed to spend.
Yeah,
So,
that's what the money in politics or out of politics thing in there. They would have the same amount.
Why they go together, billionaires and wealthy people and politics in America go together, and in oligarch nations that have problems with oligarchs have those same problems. Yeah, so they just go together. They do. Taxing them at such a high rate, and the reason why I would even say it like that, taxing them at such a high rate, is because in this country we're told that is the antithesis of freedom. That is the opposite of liberty. That is un-American. And I'm thinking, the last real Republican president we had, Eisenhower, taxed you guys out the wazoo and built interstates everywhere. And I just...
If you ever wonder why your house or this apartment complex hasn't been updated since the 70s.
Yeah, the whole nation.
It's because we've stopped taxing people.
Yeah, and infrastructure has gone down the drain. Yeah. Infrastructure. Yeah. Dams.
What?
Dams and dikes and all of these
roads,
things that we built, in that era, haven't been touched since. Think about Flint.
So I want anyone who's listening to us to make sure they understand this point. We are talking about super wealthy.
Right.
If you are higher middle class, even if you bring home $250,000 a year,
you go, girl.
$500,000. If you bring home $1 million, if you bring home, you see, I'm going up.
Right.
$5 million a year.
You go.
I don't care. I don't want you taxed any more than me, if more than me, not more than 5% more than me.
See, I'd go.
I think you can. I think you can work for that amount of money.
Right.
I don't think you can do enough work to make $50 million a year,
in a year,
$100 million a year. And I think if you work in politics, you don't need to. Right? That's a different thing, though. That's a different thing. Stay on task. I am saying, if it is conceivable that you can work for that amount of money, you should be able to do it. If you are investing to make that amount of money, that's not work, right? I do believe in a meritocracy. You can work for your money. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone who works hard enough to make a living. That means pay your bills, pay your rent, buy groceries, have a little left over to take your family to the movies every week or two.
Yeah, see, for taxes, I think
any job.
I would want more than 5% if you were making $1 million a year, but
I say more than 5% more than me.
It should be a scale, though.
Yeah,
and it should be the same for everyone, even billionaires. So a billionaire and someone who makes $36,000 a year, for both of them, their first $18,000, zero gets taken out of it. From the 18 and 01 to 25, 3% gets taken out of both the billionaire and the other. And it should keep going like that until you get to that high where you're going to demand that's where you're going to get 2 cents of every dollar because you just made $1 billion, everything over that. And that's how many of our presidents have wanted or implemented. And when I'm talking about Eisenhower, he had a progressive tax as a conservative, as a Republican, but he also, he was the first president to do our national prayer breakfast that our government does, which we're supposed to have a separation of church and state by our Constitution. Well, Right.
Sorry.
This national prayer breakfast, and he was the first president to do it. However, if you read the archive in his journal, he was so torn. He didn't want to do it. He was vocal about it. He said, it's against our Constitution. I am a president. I cannot go to a national prayer breakfast for like a Christian prayer breakfast. It would be, I can't. But if you guys want to learn more about that, okay, if you have Netflix, go to Netflix, and it's called The Family. That's just type in The Family. It's so, it's a series. There's like 5 episodes in the series. That's it. But they couldn't put it all in one. And there's also a book called The Family, and it's about all of that. And blow your mind, man. It'll blow your mind. It's so good, though. It really is. I heard about it for the first time from Seth from the Thinking Atheist, like a couple years ago. And until Brantley gave me his code to get in his Netflix. Until then, I didn't have Netflix. So when I did, all of a sudden, I was like, oh, the Family's on there. It's so good. It just made me, as I'm watching it, I kept pausing it and then looking stuff up, reading it, watching more, pausing it, looking stuff up. I was like, oh my God, this is insane.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing, like how much they got them in and how much they just mess up to. I've only heard. I haven't actually watched it, but I've seen it.
Mac. Watch it.
I don't have time to watch it.
I do have to
home.
Warn everyone that is going to watch it. If you're like me and you're easily distracted, the very first episode, the whole thing is not like, oh my God, this is so good. There's a lot of people and information, and it's just like, oh my God, when is this going to get to the juicy stuff? The whole first episode.
Okay.
But then I said, I don't want to watch this one. The second one seems so much better. So I just skipped to the second one, and it was really good. And the third one was really good. And then I was like, shit, these people were mentioned in the first. I have to go back. So I had to watch it twice because I didn't want to watch it at all. But it's really good. It's really good. I just finished it. I'm going to watch the last episode again because there's so much in it. I want to look stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine there's a lot in that. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit. Do you want to talk about religion and politics?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you think there's any reason that religion should have a say in politics? Absolutely none?
No.
Okay.
I really don't.
All right. So then what's the worst ways right now that you see religion having a say in politics?
The worst thing?
Yeah.
Our vice president is a young earth creationist. Like, I can't get past that sentence.
That's pretty bad.
Fuck.
But
that's not pretty bad. That's detrimental to our country. Yeah. He believes that Jesus rode a T-Rex, y'all. Like, maybe not exactly, but they like chilled together in the same era. Era. Or from this era. I mean, era. Everybody can say that. Era.
Yeah, era. Now I've been distracted. I think
easily distracted. Me too.
Yeah, I think we really do need a strong separation of church and state. I think that religious people need to be involved in politics so they know what goes on in the world. Because I when I talk to my Jehovah's Witness friends, they tell me that they don't pay attention to politics, and I'm like, all right, do you guys vote? And they're like, no. Well, I mean, kind of. We our vote is for Jesus, so we just pray about it, and that's that. And that hurts me. That hurts my heart because I'm just like, that is ignorant to me, and I don't mean to be rude to anyone, but it's ignorant to me, at least, because I think it is. And
it's very.
It's ignorant is not a mean, degrading thing.
No, it's not.
It just means you are ignorant. You are not informed.
Right.
In a certain way.
But when I was ignorant to that fact, I thought it was a derogatory term.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I had to explain that to my brother one time, and it got us out of a fist fight because I told him you are either lying or you are ignorant. I had to explain it to him because sometimes you just don't know something, and sometimes if you don't know what's going on in politics and just in society in general, you can't care enough to fix it. And when your church when your church community is telling you not to look at what's going on in the world because it will corrupt you, then you are just prone to being ignorant on too many fucking topics.
right.
That's not fair to you. Church already has enough say in society with just being an establishment based on ludicrous lies, right? So, yeah, I don't think it's the church should have any say in politics. Any church, but I do strongly advocate that religious people should pay attention to politics. You should vote, and I think we should keep it in the laws that your church doesn't tell you who to vote for.
Yeah, that has changed though.
Yeah.
As of right now, it is not even. It's not a thing. Any church you can go in and see them, record them doing it, and there is nobody that's going to do anything for it. It's been executive ordered out by Trump. So I do think for the party that is pro-Constitution and they love the Constitution, they really want to break it.
Yeah, they really do want to break it.
Okay, so my thoughts on the religion and politics are absolutely zero. But caveat, if you're going to have one, then you have to absolutely have all of them. And I mean, so plan 2 hours before you're going to do something, because every religion gets to come up and say their own prayer, or zero.
Now, wait a minute now, Christy, because you are following the same line of thought that I had for political ideologies, and that we can't be consistent on this show because it wouldn't be an informative show then. Right. Or it would be, but it wouldn't be. It wouldn't, like, look, how are we ever going to compete with MSNBC consistent with our ideals? Oof. What if we have principles? We're going to lose
high-minded ideals.
This is what fucking drives me mad, is that when we have conversations like this, you can see our principles guiding our opinions.
Right.
Why don't we see that in more fucking shows?
Well, they're paid not to have any of their own.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I'm sure Ben Shapiro's not paid for being able to use logic.
He's definitely not paid to use logic. He's paid to talk at 100 miles an hour. Yeah. With gotchas and zingers and bazingas and moral authority. But I do have to say that I and Mac are much, much, much more moral than his Yahweh.
His God, his Yahweh,
his Yahweh.
Yeah.
You go Yahweh, I'll go mine.
Oh, we need to make a shirt that says that.
Oh, that is good though. I would wear that. I would wear that.
So this next bit that I have for you, this next little conversation, is one seemingly out of nowhere. But this was kind of brought up to me last week when we were talking about the State of the Union. I forget her name. The young girl who got like a scholarship to go to the school of her choice.
Yeah. I don't remember her name.
Her name starts with a J. I'm sure I can look it up real quick. Here it is. Janaea Davis. Yeah. Was a fourth grade student from Philadelphia. I'll show the picture again. It's from CNN.
She's just so stinking pretty. Yeah. Such a pretty little girl.
She's a cute kid.
Her cheeks.
And I'm really, really happy that she got this grant, scholarship, whatever you want to call it, to go to the school of her choice, so she can learn in a safer, better environment than she was in before. And I'm personally a little torn on school choice, because I know that's used in a wide way, but also I was homeschooled. For those of you who don't know, I was homeschooled for 8 years, and part of
Everybody's
that,
going, obviously.
that's why he's so goddamn weird.
That's part about you.
And I was raised in a very conservative way, and in a very Christian home. So I broke out of whatever I learned before. So you can't blame my socialism and my atheism on my home life and my school life. You just can't. Even when I went back to public school, it was still pretty strong there. It didn't matter. So I do understand that there are many schools that are not up to snuff, and that they don't have good teachers. They don't. It seems like the school board doesn't care enough.
It's
right?
based on property taxes, though, so it depends on the area it's in.
That's true. And also bullying happens at schools, and that's something that happened to me when I was just in 4th grade. Like, I got beat up on the playground one too many times, and I went to a new school. I didn't want to go anymore. When homeschool was offered to me, I was like, yes, please. That sounds wonderful.
Right.
Then I was homeschooled for 8 years, but I love people. I love socializing. So I went back for my last 2 years of school, because I wanted to be around people, and I wanted to graduate at a real school, right? At a public school, because I wanted to be around my peers. Not that I wasn't that whole 8 years. There are homeschool school programs and groups, and they're wonderful. One of the issues with them, though, is they are very religiously and fundamentally religiously driven and run.
Yes.
That's why I don't support it to a point. I think that we do need to have choices, and the more I think about it, to stay principled and stay away from any kind of authoritarian opinion where, like, you can't homeschool your children or whatnot. You can't choose how to raise your children. I mean, I wouldn't want to go that route, but I do think there need to be standards. We need to regulate everything. I think there needs to be some kind of regulation on everything, including regulation itself.
I would caveat that with, I would be authoritarian on one thing.
Yeah.
I don't like private schools. I don't like private schools. I've seen entire countries outlaw them and actually be in #1 in education on the planet right now. So I know we're nowhere near that happening. I know that will probably never happen while I'm alive on this planet. I still don't think that for me to say I want an egalitarian government, purely egalitarian, everyone is equal, then a private school is not sticking with my values. So it's not. I don't think that religious schools should be outlawed. So I think that there would have to be, a caveat, or however that works out, for religious schools, because I don't think you should tell people what they can and can't believe. That's
right. But if they're state run, though, that would be mixing religion and politics, right?
Well, they couldn't.
Religion and government.
Yeah, here they couldn't be. That's just,
right.
So I know that that's not going to be something that happens, and I'm just going to have to be okay with that. But I am not okay with private schools.
No, and I think there could be some pros. Like, when I listen to Elon Musk, he like more or less homeschools his kids. He basically has a private school going, and they have different they have different teaching methods. The kids that he's teaching, or the people that he brings in, they're learning different things in different ways, and I think that's good. But I don't think it should be for a profit.
Right.
Like I said, I'm a little torn on this, and I just need more conversation on it to really nail down how I feel, because I think it should be a state-run thing, because I think schools should be standardized by the government for the people, a government run by the people, right? And I think that I'd be okay with private schools, but they can't be for profit. Like if you have enough money to make a school and you're going to go by government standards, that's okay, but it can't be a profit-based one. That's where I am right now. That's where my mind's at, and it could be changed.
I like thinking of it this way.
Mm-hmm.
People send their kids to private school when, out of all the options around them, that is the best education that, in their mind, doing their research and homework, that they have decided upon. So if you take that and flip it and say, well, every school is going to have all the funding that it needs, all of them are going to be funded exactly the same, all of them are going to, have amazing, whatever it is, you're going to fund all of the schools. They are so good that why would you pay when you can get a better education here? That's what we need to do. And then I think that it would just be that there would be smaller amount and smaller amount and smaller amount and smaller amount. Because if they can get the best education here for freezies, I mean, they're paying for it in taxes as they are now. And I don't think like Buttigieg when he says, well, I don't want to pay for rich kids to go to school. I do. I want to pay for all kids to go to school. Your rich kid is equal with this poor kid, period. Equal. And so if they're all funded, even colleges, by all of us, via taxes, then we fund them the best we can and we make them the best that we can. And let's be number one in something. Baby education. That would be awesome. That I would like to see in my lifetime, being number one in education. Yeah, I just think that would be everything. That would be everything.
And so I want to, I would like to highlight your point there. And it's the same point that we use, or people who can make a good argument for Medicare for all. It's the same point, right? We don't want private insurance companies taking the funding, right, from the government-run healthcare, because it's just a way to make government-run healthcare fail if it's not well-funded enough. This is something that I've talked with my mom about for education. I've actually made the same point, basically, but not in that way, where I say, no, I think that schools need more funding, because a lot of the time, the reasons that these schools fail these kids, and the kids that she works with, a lot of the times, is because these schools aren't well funded enough, and amongst other reasons. Sometimes it's just they hire bad people to do it, because schools are like locally politically active, right? There's a school board, and that's a political thing, right? You're elected to a school board, right, Christy? She's shaking her head yes. So
yes,
you can really fuck up a school by putting the wrong people on a school board, right? It is a political thing.
Local is very important, people. Your local elections are very important.
Yeah,
that's where you live. That's where you do everything.
And that's how your kids learn.
Yes.
By electing who's on a school board, and then how these schools are run. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm trying to think of the word. Property tax. Property tax pays for education in this country. I know that other countries who have a more egalitarian school system have done away with that. They thought, well, duh, of course poor neighborhoods are going to have underprivileged schools. Of course they're not going to have textbooks. Of course they're not going to have anything. They don't a lot of the housing is government housing. A lot of it is elderly housing. They don't pay anything. They don't have to pay taxes. They're making $12,000 a year. So of course their schools suck. They have zero funding. But you've got to understand the history. You know, history is so important here. If you go back to before versus Brown, when we brought in the National Guard into South Carolina to make sure that they allowed those 7 Black high school children and junior high school to go to school. When all of this was happening, they used words like forced busing instead of we don't like Black people, because that's what it was. And by saying forced busing and saying, well, what we can do, because I guess we can't stop them from going to our schools. That's the law. And it's going to cause a big problem, and the government's going to come down here. They started using the rhetoric of the government is bad.
Mm-hmm.
We can't trust the government. Okay, so that made a big difference to a lot of people. They started understanding that as, yes, they were saying this, but what they were meaning is something else. You know, it's almost like a dog whistle. It wasn't as bad as force busing, meaning we don't like Black people. A lot of the governments that didn't want their white children to go to school with Black children, local governments made it so that they voted, a lot of states voted to fund the schools via the property taxes. So if you live in a shitty area, you have a shitty school. So because they couldn't change the laws, that their kids had to go to school with kids that looked different. Ooh, so scary. Because that happened, they changed the laws to be funded this way. So like I said, more egalitarian countries have changed or made sure that they didn't do that, looking over here, and made sure that it was federally funded. Every school gets the same exact amount. Doesn't matter if they're in a bad neighborhood, a poor neighborhood. And what they found was it's creating a massive change. Of course it is. You're treating all the kids equally and they're all getting amazing education. Duh. Nothing bad can come from that. Only good can come from doing the right thing. For godless sakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And for godless sake. That really rings with me though. Like honestly it does. Like I think we need to, like I said earlier, religious people, some religious people stay out of politics because they don't think it matters to them, because God's in control of everything.
Oh wow.
Right, yeah.
Oh gosh.
Or their political views are fueled by religious ideals. And religious ideals are rarely based in reality, if ever. Right? So when we have this, we get half-baked ideas, and we get societies like we have now, and we get racism like we have now, which has gotten better from the past.
Yeah.
But it's not as peachy keen as it seems to be, because we invisibilize a lot of the racism that goes on nowadays, because it still happens, but people don't like to see it happening.
Right.
So what we need, for godless sake, is to people to start looking at things in a godless way. We really need humanist ideals. We I don't think it's hard to just humor the idea that maybe there's no God. All right, let's say there's no God. What can we do as humans to create a society where we can all thrive, and we have to have each other's back because there's no one else to have it for us? We can come up with a non-Mad Max kind of world if we want to live in a society, because I have news for everyone. We've done that. We've created societies. We've gotten this far. we do fucked up things, but it's usually based on religious ideals or greed, some kind of capitalist system.
Yes. Some
right?
sort of fascist system.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
God is a capitalistic dictator, right?
Yes.
In people's heads.
Yes.
And that's...
I mean, the Yahweh of the Bible, if you take it out of the Bible and just tell those stories, give them a different name in different areas and different, no, ites, no Mennonite, Jennonite, none of that stuff's going on. Name them something else. He would be this homicidal fascist dictator, just happy as he that dashes the baby on the rocks kind of stuff. Straight out of the Bible. Crazy stuff. And I don't think, nobody thinks Trump is religious. Nobody in the right mind thinks that he is a religious person or ever has been. But he's been able to tap into that. And he might not be a true believer, but our vice president is. Mike Pompeo is. These people are like young earth creationists, crazy. Prayer breakfast.
Zap the gay out of people.
They think
people.
They literally believe that they were put into this position of leadership because God put them there. That's insanity. And that's what we're dealing with.
A bunch of racist fascists put you there.
Yeah.
News for you.
Yeah. They're a little bit fascist.
What's that say about your God?
Well, they say God likes to work his good works through bad people or fallible people. And I'm like, you're only saying that because that's all you can get to lead you.
I can't wait for when God puts Bernie Sanders in the Oval Office.
Well, then they will think that the devil's winning,
Devil can't win. God's in control. All right.
Wait. Did you guys see the news that Christian evangel TV crazy nut that sells his survival bucket food? He's a Christian guy. Well, he was selling the silver stuff, like something that you take for coronavirus, some silver liquid for coronavirus on his Jesus telethon thingy.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And you can also buy his bucket of survival food if you'd like. All of it helps Jesus bless you. Oh, it's so sad. I want to tell every person that believes that. I want to just tell them, I'm sorry, you've been lied to. Don't give them another dollar. Actually, give your dollars where it will help now, today. He doesn't need anymore. He sells survival buckets of slop. It can be made into pancakes, bread. Like, it has all these different foods it can be made into. You add eggs, you add water. It's survival. It's a bucket of survival food in the name of Jesus.
Oh. All right. Well, that's a gem. That's a gem. So we have a lot coming at you guys next week.
Yeah. An actual structured show with research.
Yeah. we will have things for you. One of the main things is the Canadian pipeline thing that's going through right now. I haven't researched any of it. Christy started. We don't have it ready for you guys this week. But we'll do a nice deep dive. Just think the Dakota Access Pipeline.
In Canada.
Same kind of stuff is happening again in Canada because it's happened before in Canada as well. So if any of our Canadian friends would like to come on, maybe
I said Landon.
Landon. Gallus Granium, anyone who's up there who knows anything about it and would like to help us with the show next week, just contact us on Twitter. That's the best way, or at atheismforhumanism@gmail.com. One last thing.
Indigenous, if you're Indigenous.
Please.
Your voice is underheard. You are underviewed, and definitely
come on here.
To come express that. I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. Other thing, we had someone's fundraiser to shout out. Purple
rhymes with orange.
Do you have info on that, Christy?
I do, but I was told that it was just a picture of it. Because it's a picture of it, but I can get it. Let me see.
Okay.
I go to the source.
All right. So Purple Rhymes with Orange they have a GoFundMe, and they're hoping for more on their PayPal because it goes over smoother. But he's moving back home to Minnesota. From where, I'm not quite sure, but he's trying to get to the goal of $2,500. He's trying to move back home, and he's hoping to get this by February 27th. So if anyone has a few bucks to throw his way to help him on his move, that would be very much appreciated. We're trying to get a link for you guys right now. Links are in the description.
Yay!
Not our Lord.
Faster than me. Yeah,
links are in the description. Has the
saying?
PayPal and the GoFundMe.
Our Lord and Savior exists, guys.
Yeah, and he's in Australia.
I have evidence right now.
He's right there.
Right there. He's not a Russian bot.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that one. Also, if I may, I think we're going to be setting up a fundraiser for me, actually.
Yeah.
Because I have a few things going on. I'm reopening, I'll explain later, a martial arts school. And I need some money for some essentials. And one of those things is a nice camera, because I need to record things for my dojonim, my soka, whatever you guys may or may not know, the founder of the art that I teach. So he can kind of overview the art that I'm teaching for quality control. Kind of a common thing in closed martial arts. Excuse me. But why I'm having a fundraiser here for it, or in the community for it, is because the camera I would also use for our shows. If I can make my martial arts school and this my main thing, I will do that. You guys will get more content from me on Grey Skeptic and on the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism. I just need to get better equipment, and I need to be able to quit my 40-hour-a-week job, so I can focus on these other two things more. So that's where I'm at. If you guys are interested in helping me in these goals, that would be wonderful, and I would really appreciate it. So yeah, that's what's coming up soon. We'll get you guys more info on that again next week.
Right.
So that's all that. Anything else from you, Christy?
No, I don't think so. Happy Valentine's Day, guys.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We're 26 subscribers away from 700. So that means we could join the 700 club, and they would love to have us.
They would not love to have me, I promise.
If we get to 700 subscribers, we'll do a 700 club graphic for our next show.
That would be
How's that sound? It's amazing.
Even I would be so proud if we did and they got mad.
That'd be great.
I would just love it. Like,
so,
you can't use that, it's ours. And I'd be like, aw, that's so cute.
Look at so mad at us. We'll probably have to pull that whole video, but you guys will be here for it.
But it would be worth it.
It would be worth it.
It would be worth it. Then we'll just make it available for Patreons only, an audio version.
Oh, ka-ching. All right, yeah. So please make us part of the 700 Club. Please join us next week for the Canadian pipeline and more fundraiser news. Thank you all for joining us on your Valentine's Day. I'm so in love with you all. Thank you so much.
And
stay humanist for Godless sake.